Prabhu Guptara is a writer, poet, and international speaker. As chairman, CEO, or board member of several companies, he specialised in strategic, organisation, human resources, and market-related issues.
Truth is surely absolutely central and key to everything. But human beings have a strange propensity to run away from truth, because the problem is that being willing to be honest entails paying a certain price in humility, in possibly financial consequences, possibly in career, power consequences. So the question really at the end of the day is, are we willing to pay the price of seeking for the truth and speaking the truth and following the truth?
And how have you seen the value of truth in our society changing?
In the popular culture, a final revolt against the long shadow of Victorianism started in the 80s. And so we had a systematic retreat from truth. You can see this, for example, in economic policy. You can see this in the way inflation figures are calculated.
You talk about the kind of this happened as we turned away from kind of the Victorian way of seeing the world. I mean, what do you think it was that brought about that change in perspective?
I'm not arguing that everybody in Victorian times had a complete commitment to truth and everybody was very honest with themselves and, willing to change from ways of darkness to ways of light or anything like that. But I'm just saying the culture had a tendency in that direction. And the cultural tendency has changed. The result is that the vast majority of people, instead of having that kind of tendency towards truth, do they have that kind of tendency towards falsehood? That commitment to removing any commitment to moral values has spread through the culture. You can see the change that happened from the 60s onwards, and particularly from the 80s onwards in global culture. And sadly, we are reaping the consequences of that today. But that doesn't mean anybody is 100% evil. And you see this very clearly when politicians retire from their political office, then they suddenly start making very different statements. Ex-CEOs who made ridiculous statements when they were CEOs or chairmen of companies retire, and then what happens? Then they start realizing that what they did was wrong and start making amends for it, or trying to make amends for it. People who made a lot of money immorally then start doing philanthropy, as a way of salving their conscience, because the conscience begins to come back into play once you've got away from the rat race.
And so do you see part of your role as kind of countering this kind of disinformation and promoting truth? And if so, how do you go about doing it?
Well, I've been talking in rather absolute terms that there's been this cultural commitment to untruth and to falsehood and so on. I'm trying at an individual level to learn to be more honest with myself. I'm trying to encourage friends to be more honest with themselves. So I'm trying to be a more challenging friend and not just a nice friend. I'm trying through my business activities and through my poetry to rouse the conscience of people, to enable them to see something a little different from what they're seeing at present. And I'm trying to gather together people of goodwill who have some kind of a willingness to lean a little more towards the truth, so that we can all, whatever the labels on our foreheads, Hindu, Muslim, materialist, Marxist, whatever the labels on our foreheads, these are meaningless labels today, in my view, to gather together people of goodwill, so that goodwill can become a force again. Humane values can become a force again in our society. The commitment to truth can begin to be more of a tendency today than a commitment to falsehood. That's what I'm trying to do through all my activities. Whether it's as a business consultant, whether it's as a poet, whether it's as a publisher, that's what I'm trying to do.
And as you gather these people together, how can we join you kind of literally and metaphorically on your journey?
You can join the mailing list of the publishing company. You can follow my website. You can read my poems. You can so that is, as it were, spectator activity, if you see what I mean. But there's also participatory activity. You can send me comments. You can send me suggestions. You can send me criticisms. You can enter into dialogue with me. And I'm trying to build a community of such people. And so as I build this community of such people, you can join the community and maybe take leadership of the community. I don't have to be the leader of this. I'm just trying to make something happen. And in fact, connecting the dots between different communities of people who in their own way are also trying to do the same thing. So don't be be a spectator to begin with, but don't just be a spectator, be a participant, be a leader. Why be only a participant when you can be a leader? And of course, you can be a leader in many different ways. A housewife at home or a husband at home can lead in their household, in the way they bring up their children. In a world which has so much commitment to falsehood, it takes a lot of effort to bring up children with a commitment to truth. It takes a lot of effort to keep oneself on the straight and narrow. So one of the questions I asked my friends, a friend of mine was sitting here just a couple of days ago, and I was saying to him, look, John, you have a commitment to ethical values, but what are you doing to keep your ethical values refreshed? What are you doing to keep yourself fresh? People with ethical values in our world, have a great temptation, that is to cynicism and despair. How do we keep ourselves energetic, optimistic, aligned with truth and with light, so that we can be working in the most intelligent, wise, witty, funny, energetic, creative way to making the world better? That requires a kind of self-renewal, which we cannot do by ourselves, which we need supernatural help, divine help, community help in order to make that happen. And so I challenge people, and I encourage people to challenge themselves to see, are they really keeping themselves, on the straight and narrow? And are they really working in the best possible way towards light and humaneness rather than darkness and oppression?
There are 5 basic questions about truth in these podcasts. We're asking them of a wide variety of people to keep the conversation going.